I don't know how I follow that up. I'm going to read to you a little from a book that came out in 2012, a little from a new book coming, and a little from a chapbook that came in between. So you get kind of a cross-section of me. And like a friend of mine used to say, I may not be much, but I'm all I think about. So. This is the title poem from this book, The 115 to Penn Station. The 115 to Penn Station. 10 minutes out of Back Bay Station, and I'm reminded of a long-ago train and the futile mission I was on then, and where it brought me and why it cornered me into thinking I was onto something. Something more than the wrong hard turn that left me high but hungry and hurt. And when I woke up, I realized some things can't be fixed, no matter how hard you try. The tracks connect us like telephone lines and power grids and graffiti walls and parking lots and barbed wire and chain link and churches, miles and miles of churches, and acres of trees flipping by my window like the clips of conversation around me. You can see it all out a train window. You can see the signs, checks cash, cold beer, rooms by week, shows nightly, hawk hair, bet hair, pay for junk hair, the spray paint, broken glass, plywood walls, make peace, Jesus saves, funk lives, the clothesline, the cardboard, the vapid faces of the children, long lines of blank-faced children, and it reminds you how easy it is to walk a mile like a rummy in both directions, run farther and farther away and closer to yourself until the worst bet becomes the only one left, and the trouble follows you like soup cans tied to a wedding car. But sometimes you catch a glimpse of 100 sparrows bursting from the cover of a lonely maple tree, or some kid hitting a rubber fastball high over the telephone wire in slow motion. Or you pass a man standing in a junkyard pointing to the bottom of a scrap pile, and you think no matter where you go, you're always trying to get to the bottom of the junk. The junk you choose, the junk you hide from, the junk that keeps you riding the rails. And the train sneaks into the city as if someone left the back door open. Every year, sometimes twice a year, I go to these poetry retreats in New Jersey, across the road from a convent. Maria Mazziotti Gillen, Laura Boss, a couple of New Jersey, New York poets. And you basically get poetry prompts, go away, 20 minutes, write a poem, come back and share it. And you do it all weekend. And I'm always driving home over the Tappan Zee with 5 or 6 poems running around in my mind that I want to keep working on. It really helps, right, to generate poetry. So this is a prompt. The prompt was, write about that weird kid you knew in grammar school. So the title of this is The Weird Kid. I was the weird kid in grammar school. I was shy. I made noises when I walked, strange gulping sounds in my throat, and I stuttered when we read out loud. But I was not without talent. I could roll my stomach like a belly dancer, a big hit in the coat room closet. I used to do it singing, "My baby does the hanky-panky." And I could make myself turn red by holding my breath. On good days, I got closer to a deep purple. Sharon Malfitano, the class president, sat behind me. She had an election poster of Dracula saying, "All I want is your vote." Sometimes during a test or when we were drawing, I would turn around and stop breathing and tighten the muscles in my neck. And quickly, my white Irish skin would turn the shade of a radish. And she'd smile. And eventually, if I held it long enough, she'd start laughing at me. I guess you could say I had a way with the ladies. This is a title poem from a book that's due out in the fall of 2016. Feels like forever. The title of the book and this poem is Jesus Was a Homeboy. And this poem kind of imagines Jesus kind of mashed up with this Vietnam vet that I used to know. Jesus was a homeboy. He came with a pillow sack over his shoulder, took the triple-decker loft that leaked when it rained, talked all day about the jungle, the piles of dope, the sins of his M16. Talked about it when he walked the floor at 3 a.m., threw open the window and yelled into the street, "Forgiveness." Talked to the guys on the corner who bagged his coin and passed him weed and beat him once good for going on too long. Talked day after day, night after night. Talked to the traffic, the cab drivers, the police, the priests, the nuns. Talked to the guys in the steam room at the YMCA and the kids playing basketball in the schoolyard who called him Jesu the Cuckoo. Talked in the rectory the night he flipped a table at a prayer meeting for vets, walked home with his rosary beads around his fist, shaved his head and stood in the rain in a white satin robe he bought overseas, a few men in a circle around him, watching the suffering. I've been thinking about the Celtics a lot lately. I've been a basketball coach for the last 16 years. It's been nice to have the Celtics back in the playoffs, but painful to watch the results. I was born in 1957, the first year the Celtics won the championship. And I grew up with Bill Russell and the Celtics. I lived in Revere, a short subway ride to the Garden. And this is a poem about Bill Russell called "The Center" for Bill Russell. You were always in the middle of it, your arms stretching from one side of the lane to the other, tipping those hopeless attempts just enough to gather them and start the other way. You touched everything, your fingertips wrapped in white tape, your beard neat to a point under your chin, your hands on the shoulders of your teammates during a timeout. You were the smartest man they knew, the greatest Celtic. Teams tried everything. Some were bigger, some faster, some shooting better than you, and all you ever did was win. I heard your name at night from the radio on my bedside table, the gravel voice of Johnny Most, Russell this, Big Bill that. You were my hero. Yet, while you were winning 11 championships, they broke into your house and defecated on your bed. And sports guys said you were not happy. You didn't sign autographs. You didn't love Boston. I didn't know any of this then. I only pounded the ball in my backyard, making layups as if I were you, outstretched, driving to the basket, beating them any way I could.